Welcome to Create and Orchestrate. Today, we're going to talk about starting your business off compliant from day one. I'm Marcus Whitney, and this is Create and Orchestrate. Welcome back to Create and Orchestrate. So I was on the phone with one of my best friends in the world yesterday, I'm so proud of. He's getting ready to make the leap into entrepreneurship. It's amazing. He's built a fantastic career, becoming an expert in his field, and he's now about to take that and create his own business to be able to take control of his time and take the ceiling off his wealth generating abilities. And I'm super proud of him. And he's done all the hard work of like seeing himself in that space, coming up with a brand, getting those initial customers. He's getting ready to get his website live. It's so inspiring to see him make these steps, especially at this point in his career where he could just continue on. On the corporate path. He's choosing to take this risk and go for it, which is great. But he called me and he said, man, things are going really great. I'm getting ready to kind of really launch this thing. But, I have some questions about like taxes, and like just how to set things up the right way. And what's so funny about that is, first of all, it just shows how much wisdom he has to reach out to me in advance before he even collects that first check to say, hey, can you talk me through some of this stuff? So that was incredibly wise. I was not that smart when I started my first business. I made so many mistakes on payroll and county and city and state and federal taxes. It's crazy. So I wanted to take a second to talk about compliance. And talk about the areas of compliance at a high level and what you need to do when you start your business to make sure that you are compliant. So first of all, let's talk about what does compliance mean? Compliance means that there are rules and there are policies that surround the act of operating a business. You operate your business in a certain municipality in whatever your city is. If you're in a county or a smaller town, then there are going to be laws there. There's going to be laws at the state level, and then there's going to be laws at the federal level. And then those laws all change depending on what kind of business you're running. So if you run a business where you're providing a service, there's a certain set of laws. If you run a business where you're selling a product and it's a physical product, there's a certain set of laws. If it's a software product, there's a certain set of laws. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all field guide for how to be compliant in your business. I could never write that because when you think about all the different combinations of the kind of business you could be running, where you're running it, how you're running it, do you have employees or are you outsourcing everything? All those different things mean other things. So here's what's really important. The first thing to know is that you probably have to comply with laws at the county level, city level. If you live in a place like Nashville, those are the same. The state level and the federal level. That's the first thing to know. You have to comply on all those levels. So you should just know that there is probably a county clerk or a city clerk that manages all of the business licenses and the things that kind of that make you compliant with them. There's going to be a Secretary of State that you usually have to work with at the state level. And then obviously there's the IRS, right? And then there's even some regulatory organizations depending on what you're selling. So for example, if you're in the healthcare industry and you're selling a device, you probably have to work with the Food and Drug Administration, just as an example, okay? So that's the first thing, understanding those different levels. The second thing is, what are the different things they're gonna ask you to be compliant about, okay? So they're definitely going to ask you to be compliant about the money you make. And the main way they're going to ask you to be compliant about that is taxes. So there's going to be fees that you're going to have to pay just for keeping yourself in good standing. And then there's also taxes that you're going to have to pay. you're gonna have to be compliant when it comes to labor. So if you hire people, there's a whole nother set of things you're gonna have to work out, usually at the state and federal level. Things like unemployment insurance, making sure that you're reporting on a quarterly basis to the Labor and Workforce Department in your state. And also making sure that you're compliant with all of your paperwork with the IRS at the federal level. So that's a whole nother level of things that you need to be compliant on. You're going to have insurance for your business, at least general liability, but probably also errors and omissions for a lot of businesses out there. And then there's lots of other things that are, like I said, are going to be specific to the type of business you're running and where you're running it. So understand, it's too complicated for you to spend the time to figure it out on your own. So there are two things you're gonna need. You're gonna need an attorney and you're gonna need an accountant. End of story. And you need to have a great attorney and a great accountant that you can develop a really good relationship with, that know how to work with startups, are not gonna nickel and dime you for every single question you're gonna ask, and are genuinely interested in growing their business along with your business, right? So you want to work with someone who has great references from other entrepreneurs that you know and you trust, and that they have worked with startups, and they understand that obviously in a startup you can't spend $10,000 in your first 3 years of business with an attorney or with an accountant, and that you need them to work with you. They ought to have a lot of this stuff already figured out. They ought to have some plans kind of in place for you. There are services out there like LegalZoom and other things like that. More often than not, what I've seen is that entrepreneurs don't know enough to even use those systems 100% correctly. And in so doing, they miss something and end up being out of compliance. And the real problem with being out of compliance is that it costs money. At the end of the day, if you're not compliant on the front end, you're gonna get something in the mail from some organization that you've never heard of, telling you that because you didn't do something right the first time, you owe like 4 or 5 times the amount.
Business bad? Fuck you, pay me. Oh, you had a fire? Fuck you, pay me.
Right, and it just sucks, and it's depressing, and you haven't prepared for it. You didn't stash money away for it, so it really impacts your business.
The place got hit by lightning, huh? Fuck you, pay me.
It's really the ugly side of doing business, right? The fun stuff is coming up with great products and working with customers and building a team. That stuff is great, creating value in the market. The not so fun stuff is the compliance stuff, but you have to do it, and you have to do it right. So at the end of the day, I think the main things are, you have to know that you need to be compliant at the county and city, state, and federal level. There's going to be lots of different areas that you'll have to be compliant in. Revenue and labor are two really big ones, and also always think about insurance. And then ultimately, to do it the right way, you're going to need a good attorney and a good accountant. So I hope this has been helpful. This is stuff I wish somebody had told me when I got started, because it probably would have saved me thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache. But I hope this is helpful for you. So we'll see you at the next episode. One love.